And welcome to another edition of the Bachelor News Radio Show on the Bachelor News Network. I'm LA Bachelor. Thank you for joining us. You could have been doing something else. You decided to be a part of this broadcast. We certainly appreciate it. Let's get right to it. I want to bring in my guest. He is a sports talk show host. He covers the AFC South like no other. Get into some of the other things that he does. He's the one and only Mike Patton. Mike, good to see you. Happy New Year. I forgot who I said you look like. I can't remember who famous you look like. I told you this before and I forgot it already.
I've been told a few different people, and every time I say nah.
I wish you actually, on a personal level, I wish I had my nephew's picture and put it right next to yours because you guys look just alike. You probably got a little more hair than he does now, but you're probably around the same age or so. But staying in your state of Tennessee, not sure if you got to Cali yet. We'll talk about that off air. But obviously, you and I had this conversation about the quarterback position there with the Titans, and is it safe to say they're looking at a quarterback in the draft or bringing in a big time free agent at all to replace what they have right now on the roster?
Definitely. I mean, but like we said last time we talked, the mission was not necessarily was to upgrade the talent and also look at if Levis is going to be the guy or not. And that whether we agreed on it or not was here nor there, but that was the exact mission. And we know exactly what they don't have right now, and that is they don't have a quarterback. So it's either to me, it's going to be either Cam Ward, Shedeur Sanders, or trade the pick. That's it. And trade the pick is an option, folks. By the way.
But I mean, just like they say when a coach has been there a long time, and you need a quarterback and you don't get one in the draft, who's out there to bring in terms of free agents? You don't want Aaron Rodgers. You certainly don't want, guys like that.
They don't, but unfortunately, there is one particular gentleman that has piqued their interest. Reportedly, there's a few teams, including the Titans, that are in the Sam Darnold sweepstakes. Now, would I personally be in the Sam Darnold sweepstakes? No. But that just is the word is out there. I'm just delivering the news. That's all I'm doing. And there's that one. And honestly, just in terms of the Titans organization, there's pressure on Brian Callahan going into year 2. And honestly, it was basically put on by the owner when they fired Rand Carthen. So when that happened, there's pressure on Callahan. And will he go with a rookie in a year that he's under a lot of pressure to win? Or will he go with a veteran that he probably can work with?
Wow. Boy, we talked about black coaches not getting a chance. Callahan got that pressure that fast. I mean, that roster had to be, to me, I mean, they got some talent on the defense. The defense is probably what kept them in games this year for the most part anyway. But you look at this roster, where do they start? Outside of quarterback, what positions do they need to get better at either the draft or via free agency?
I would say off the offensive line, of course. The right side of the line is going to be fine. They have Pete Skoronski over there, and they also have J.C. Latham over there, 2 back-to-back first-round picks. Those guys actually got better as the season went on. They'll be fine. Center position, Lloyd Cushenberry tore his Achilles through the seat about midway to a little past that point in the season. So they may need to look for someone there. Definitely need to look for someone at right tackle. That has been a hole for the last couple of years there for them. Defensively, probably another edge rusher to put alongside Landry or replace Landry. You never know.
Well, I mean, if they can get better bodies for Landry, then I can see.
There's rumblings. There's been some. I mean, there's been some fans, I would say, talk about that, but the team hasn't mentioned that. But you never know. I mean, with Landry, he's a good number 2 pass rusher, but being your number 1 pass rusher, I'm not so sure he's the guy because you also notice when he had like a Bud Dupree or someone else on the opposite side of him, his production was very good. When not to say it was awful, but it was better with those guys as opposed to him being by himself. I would say maybe another linebacker and the safety position. You got to have another person at the safety position. I would say that would be very, very good for them because you do have a Monty Hooker, but you had a rotating cast at safety, especially after our guy at the Diggs, Quandre Diggs out of Seattle got hurt.
Yeah, yeah. It'll be interesting what they do. Where are they picking the draft anyway?
That would be Nomura Uno, number 1.
Oh, that's right. That's right. And that, I mean, which was crazy that the Patriots got dropped down after winning a game. They dropped down to 4 and everything else. You look at that. Let's look at some of the players, coaches, and situations in the news in the NFL and in particular the playoffs. And I had Baltimore going to the Super Bowl. I thought that Lamar had learned from his mistakes. He got all those jitters out. But the one thing about Lamar is taking care of the ball, and that the interception I can forgive a little bit because he had to kind of throw it a little quicker than he wanted with Milano coming under the pressure, and he didn't see the safety coming over. Do it too far, and the safety, picked the ball. But the fumble, he's holding the ball with one hand, doesn't have the biggest hands as it is, but it's cold, and you try to make a play, and you're careless with the ball. Mark Andrews, I had said to people, hasn't been right in 2 years. Probably won't even be back with the team. We're likely doing what he's doing. And the 2 crucial mistakes he made. But all in all, at the end of the day, it's all going back to Lamar. He will get the blame for everything. And in this case, yeah, you cannot turn the ball over in that environment, in that inclement weather, in those situations. If you want to move on for a chance to get the Super Bowl, you already got to go through Kansas City, even if you won the game, and you don't get there because of these mistakes. Part 1. Part 2, address the fact that Mike Tomlin's been really criticized for one and dones and everything after 18 years. John Harbaugh been there for 17. He been to 1 Super Bowl. He's had some mishaps in the divisional round, and they haven't gotten back to the Super Bowl. Nobody really talks about him. Address that part as well.
Well, what I will say is, in regards to that game, what I like to think about is, of course, there were turnovers, there were mistakes being made, but still there was a chance to win the game. And in the chance to win the game, you didn't capitalize on those points, i.e., Lamar led you back after you were down.
Right.
I.e., Andrews dropped a pass that could have put them in overtime.
Right.
He did, but everyone made mistakes. But the thing I was most proud of Lamar is that usually when he makes mistakes like these in the past, the whole game goes just off, and he doesn't come back from those. He's throwing his helmet on the sideline, or he's frustrated. This game, he sat there, composed himself. Second half, got things together, got going, got his team back in the game. So I will, applaud that bit of growth. Although I will say the turnovers were, all the teams that won had 0 turnovers combined. The other teams that lost, they were turning it over all over the place. So, you gotta in the playoffs, you cannot turn the ball over in those key situations and key moments in time, and that's where I think the Ravens have to tighten things up a little bit. As far as Mike Tomlin, I mean, it's going to be forever.
Well,
a question.
I meant to say they're picking on Tomlin, but I really want to address John Harbaugh.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, Harbaugh, let's be honest, his job was saved when Lamar Jackson came into the picture, basically, because he was pretty much gone, and then here comes Lamar Jackson, and he revived his career essentially as a head coach for the Baltimore Ravens. But yeah, you do have to wonder eventually. But both of these guys put their teams in contention to actually win games. I would also say that the front office of the Ravens is definitely doing a little bit more than the Pittsburgh Steelers, because they put more pieces in position and they pay more people, and they're actually a little bit more. I would say they're a little bit better about drafting impact players, in my opinion, than the Pittsburgh Steelers are over the last couple of years, over the last few years. They are, and in the trades as well. They do what they need to do, and it seems like Pittsburgh depends on Mike Tomlin to be MacGyver every single year,
Right.
instead of Harbaugh. And Harbaugh, he definitely deserves some criticism. Does he deserve all the criticism for things that happened in this game? No, he doesn't, because his team turned the ball over. He can't control that part of it.
Well,
But
I
he can.
will say this though.
Mhm.
I thought they gave Buffalo the game by coming out throwing. Run the ball. You see what you. I mean, you really didn't get Henry going. I mean, they made an effort to shut him down, but I thought the way they came out with Pittsburgh, where they read that RPO was right there. Let Lamar be Lamar. Okay, he see that if that ain't gonna crash, then you take the ball and you take it to the outside and you go. If the end ain't gonna crash, you give it to Henry in between the tackles up the middle. That's what works. That's been working all year. But you come out throwing the ball. I don't understand it.
I would say this: they did try to come out in the first of the game and actually try to establish the run a little bit more. Of course, they shifted a little bit more, probably a little bit more heavy to the pass as the first half went on. But then the second half, the drive that got them back in the game, they depended on the run game to get them back into the game in that part. I will say, the thing that I love about Lamar and I love about watching his game is that he was more decisive about the different decisions he made more than any other year that I've watched him play, whether it be passing the football or running the football, things like that. And in my opinion, I see this growth continuing, and I think I don't even know if Lamar's 30 yet, but
No, he's
by
not.
the time Lamar's 30, I could see him hoisting the Lombardi Trophy. By the time
But we gotta. I guess I'm a Lamar apologist. I believe in him, but baby
I believe
steps.
in Lamar too. I like Lamar.
Right, but
Love Lamar.
baby steps in the eye of the media and people who root against Lamar isn't good enough. I mean, I was talking to a friend of mine and saying, if he wins the game, you got 4 black quarterbacks in the AFC and NFC championship game. 4.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll get to Jaden Daniels in a second, but I think that I can't, like, I made a purpose not to watch any media outlets, sports or politics, for obvious reasons. I don't want to hear them slam Lamar and make Josh Allen to be the greatest thing since apple pie. And
he didn't have that great a game, by the way.
Right, folks. He didn't. It was pedestrian because the defense did well. They got turnovers and they ran the ball well. But
James Cook.
And of course the politics, I'm not watching it for the orange guy in the White House. So I'm done. I'm watching movies. I'm watching Law and Order. I'm not even messing with it until the championship games on Sunday. But with that being said, if you look at what Buffalo did, I agree with you. Josh Allen didn't do anything spectacular. He got the dub. He moves on to KC. Is this a team of destiny going into Arrowhead, or is number 15 just going to say, this is my house?
They're going to lose again to Kansas City. I honestly, I don't see them beating Kansas City in Kansas City. Josh
said they did it earlier, 34, 31, or whatever it was.
Josh can talk about all the different speeches, but he's right. People have been saying this team is too small. They're not talented enough, all those different things. And when that comes through is when playoff time, when you need that one play, you can't just be Josh Allen and the Allenettes. It's got to be somebody else out there. And I just don't see anybody else out there besides maybe a Dalton Kincaid. Maybe he steps up and plays the potential that everyone says he has. But right now it's it's basically ball control offense. Them just making a few things happen from time to time, and maybe one there every now and again, maybe Josh Allen making a special play, but he didn't really make that incredible play in the Buffalo Bills and Baltimore Ravens game. I mean, Lamar made more special plays than what he did. Just Lamar made more turnovers as well. So, and the thing also, just getting back to Lamar, the Lamar, the criticism that he receives, I know we're talking a little bit more different dynamics when it comes to Lamar Jackson and the person I'm going to mention. But it reminds me a lot of when hearing about Peyton Manning year after year after year after year, continuing to fail to win the Super Bowl. And then finally, in one of his years, what it wasn't even his best year, they win the Super Bowl. So, it'll be interesting just to see how that kind of looking at both those dynamics is kind of in some ways similar.
Yeah, I just feel bad for Lamar because I
do as well.
I know
it's
he's talented enough to win the Super Bowl. He's pressing. And I know what they tried to do, John Harbaugh. They wanted to take advantage of that very suspect secondary. So they wanted to throw the ball with Hamlin struggling. Hamlin hadn't been the same since he got hurt on the field. And that secondary is very young. So I know what they wanted to do. But, man, you got King Henry in the backfield, man. You just got to keep doing it.
While I understand, I think earlier in the game with the down and distances, that kind of dictated them to kind of throw the ball a little bit more. And I think, once the third quarter hit, they got into it a little bit more in terms of running the football. But, in terms of time and distance and things like that, I think that dictated a little bit more throwing than probably what they wanted to do over the entire game.
And I agree with you to the point of in this game, they had to win on first down against Buffalo. Buffalo was in second and fives, third and fours, and then they got options. They could run it, and Josh Allen will do a draw play or whatever. That's what Kansas City's got to make sure they stay out of. Make them be in second and eights, second and tens, second and nines, and then you get that defensive line putting pressure on Allen. They'll take them down. But I know
I'll say this:
Bills would like to run a 6 offensive lineman, which makes it difficult to get to him in the first place.
As bad as Kansas City has played, they're still right there. Right. They really have not looked overly impressive, yet they still find ways to win. People can call it lucky. People can call it just great play and whatever. And, of course, the people can say the referees, but I'm like this, look. When you miss a field goal, when you miss a couple extra points, when you give teams great position, that doesn't help you win either. Because to me, if you're a good team, good to great team, you win despite things happening not in your favor. You don't blame a game on the referees like I heard some of these folks that were fans and then some of the players from the Texans talking about either.
Right. Talking with Mike Patton, of course, on the Btchelor News show here on the Btchelor News Network. Mike, switching to the NFC, I had Philly over the Rams, but I gotta say the Rams are built for this. Like their roster, he always seems to have that right something to at least get to the divisional round, and then whatever happens. And since he's been the coach. With a solid quarterback, 2 great wide receivers, great tight end, great offensive line, a running back, if he doesn't turn the ball over, that runs really well, and Williams. But Philly, the one thing a defense can do that's well and be successful, if you can get pressure with your front four. And Philly can get pressure with the front four, so they can play man. They can mix it up in the back seven. And I think that's what ultimately hurt the Rams. But offensively, I'm not asking Hurts to throw like they're saying, 130 yards to make it. He just seems a lot of gun shy. Like he could take the slant or take the dump down. You want to get it to A.J. Brown and Smith and Goddard and those guys down the field and the seams, the slant patterns and, curl routes and different things like that. but he just seems uneasy to me. Do you get that with him? Even he doesn't seem like the confident Hurts, not the yardage part, but the guy who just let it rip. 2 years ago when they got to the Super Bowl.
Well, he definitely isn't that same guy, but the biggest thing and reason why he isn't that same guy is you look at the amount of offensive coordinators he's had over the past 6 years.
Yeah,
I
that's
mean,
true.
he's had 3 different offensive coordinators in the last 3 seasons. So he's constantly learning a new offense over and over and over. Now, if there's some consistency and he keeps the same offensive coordinator, I think you would see a better version of Jalen Hurts. Now, that isn't an excuse. You still got to be better, and it's still a little better in those some situations. However, I think that's more of an explanation as to why you see a Jalen Hurts that's not necessarily sure of himself all the time. Now, does he make winning plays? Yes. Does he make all the plays? No. And that's why I think you see some of the indecision or some of the holding of the football, things like that. I think also he's in an offense with Kellen Moore where it's kind of not an offense that gives you quick outlets all the time. And that's where I think is some of the issue as well. Now, there are some plays like the quick slant he threw to A.J. Brown. That was a quick outlet. But do I think there are many of those built in for that offense? No. Just look at the season that Dak Prescott had under Kellen Moore and his offense, and you'll notice there wasn't very many outlets. There was all like deep to intermediate throws in that offense, which that does not suit Jalen Hurts as well, or nor does it help him as a quarterback.
Well, I was surprised they even hired Kellen Moore. I mean,
I was
I,
too.
yeah, I don't like his style of coaching. I don't like that. I like run first guys, but I like guys who mix it up. And ironically, he comes from a franchise who kind of originated the motion offense, and the old Dallas Cowboys would do that motion, move the tight end, wide receiver, go to the outside, that kind of thing. But with that being said, I'll get to Washington in a second. Were you surprised? First of all, I really wasn't that Washington beat Detroit, and not only beat them, they dominated them. I think Detroit took them for granted. I think the rest of the NFC heard him say to Coach O'Connell for the Vikings, "We'll see you in 2 weeks." After they
Mhm.
beat them to win the division, I think they really didn't think they really were expecting to be playing Philly in the NFC Championship game, and Washington, which anybody you talk to had knows me way before the season when I knew they got Jaden Daniel, and you know how he played. You've seen him in college and in both places where he played in college. That when you look at Dallas, I figured they'd have a drop off. I didn't know what to get with Philly the way they ended their season last year, and the Giants are going to be Giants. Washington, good coach. They had the weapons on offense. You bring in this kid, the younger version of Lamar Jackson in the way this style of running and throwing the ball and things. And I said, why not? I think Washington can win the division. They didn't win the division, but here they are with a chance to have the first rookie, black, of course, to ever get to a Super Bowl. But were you surprised Detroit lost and in the manner that they lost?
I wasn't surprised because the thing is with Detroit, they are a team based on the injuries and things like that they had defensively that had to outscore you and outgun you to win. And I knew eventually that would catch up to them. I just didn't know when it would catch up to them. And I was a little nervous for them going into this game because I just saw how the offense of the Washington Commanders was clicking. And their defense, for all the bumps and bruises and the slander that they've taken, they have, from time to time stepped up and done a few things. And they did in this game. And when I was wondering when the Houston Texans game happened for the Detroit Lions, I was like, okay, I was a little nervous about that then. And he's like, oh, this could potentially happen again. And sure enough, it happened again. And, of course, I knew it was a loss was coming when they run a reverse pass with Jamison Williams
Right.
throwing the football. I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, and I've heard Bomani Jones talk about this, and I've heard Dominic Foxworth talk about this. you're basically entrusting your season to a guy, a wide receiver that has had questionable judgment during his NFL career. Just think on that one. Come on, Ben Johnson.
Yeah. Ben Johnson said bye, though. Of course, he's the new coach.
Hold on, time out. Yeah, he definitely said bye. He definitely said bye, and so many people are slandering him, talking about he shouldn't have been taking the head coaching interviews. Why he's a head coach and all those different things. I'm like, look here. Now you're gonna tell me that you're at your job, that while you performing your job, you're not gonna mess around and look at other opportunities if they offer you. If you tell me that I got a beach house to sell you in South Dakota in the winter.
Well, those are the fans that believe, in fantasy football, and it's just a game. They don't see these guys are working for a living. So of course they're gonna get a offer if they're the hot OC or DC, like Aaron Glenn. Maybe I'll get to him at the Saints, or maybe with the Jets or whoever play for both squads. But yeah, obviously, I also thought that Jared Goff is a guy who likes to throw the ball in the seams. He doesn't like those out routes and deep outs. He likes to get the tight end or somebody coming over the middle. He likes to work the middle, and they took that away too. So it forced him into some situations he didn't want to make, and made some bad throws as well. So hats off to Washington. What do you say about this kid? I mean, it's a shame that two things happen or rarely happen. One, running backs rarely win MVP, and rookies rarely ever. I don't think they ever won MVP. That's why they got offensive player, rookie player, and defensive rookie player, whatever. But this guy, man, he has no fear, and that's how you got to play it. I like the fact that their coach went for it. He went for it about 4 times. I think on 4th down, he got 2 right, but that's that killer mentality. Anytime, anywhere, we playing with house money. We a year or 2 ahead of schedule. Why not? Talk about this quarterback, the poise that he shows, and that's might be overstated in some cases, but he has shown maturity and poise like he's a NFL vet. And this team that's rallying around them, and they're just believing in themselves.
Yeah, Jaden Daniels is a guy that he played a lot of college football. He played at Arizona State and Louisiana State University, and he's a guy that in crucial situations, he's calm. He's calm. He's peaceful. You notice him. He's on the sideline. He who knows? He may have a book like AJ Brown does on the sideline. Who knows? But he's very, very calm and together on the sideline in these type of situations. One reason is because he does virtual training. I don't know if you know that, but he does like some virtual training for these type of pressure situations. Also, he's just a mature young man. Mm-hmm. And it's just incredible the ability he has to, in pressure situations, just step in there and continue to be the same person that he is day in and day out. And the team feeds off of that. So when pressure moments come around, they don't get rattled because they're like, okay, cool, we got him on our side and you don't. And the thing I would say that's different between him and Lamar, I know you touched on him and being a little bit younger than Lamar. And I think, Jaden Daniels is Jaden Daniels just because Jaden Daniels is more of, I think he's definitely more pinpoint accurate than Lamar was at this point in his career. Right. And he also is a guy that when he runs, it looks like he's gliding. I don't think Lamar runs, it's just like Sonic the Hedgehog. This guy looks like he's like skiing when he's running. Yeah. And he just glide past you, gets out of bounds, and and he's probably the guy that the guy that has a little quiet voice that kind of tells you about, but it's talking trash. He's like, "Oh, I got you that play, didn't I?" He probably saying that walking back to the huddle. But he's just a guy that is a leader of men. And I'm glad they did not break him like Robert Griffin III. Because Robert Griffin III was broken, and then he got broke some more when it came playoff time, because there's no way he should have been on that field with that knee. So I'm very glad that they did not break him. I'm very glad to see him do well. And I was very high on him going into the draft. I thought he was very, very talented. I do think that our boy in Chicago is talented too.
Caleb.
But I think Caleb is still talented as well. But you match him up with a guy that likes to put the ball in the air and doesn't like to do a few things with the football. Yeah, that's another key reason why Jaden Daniels is succeeding. And I am a person that really doesn't give credit to the particular gentleman that's his offensive coordinator, because I thought he kind of failed up a lot. But I will say I got to give him credit this year. He has done a great job with Jaden McDaniel.
And you know what? That's probably why his name's not coming up, because he don't want to go anywhere. He's enjoying it, and he is to, like I keep telling some people, some guys are great OCs and DCs. They just don't make great coaches.
Correct.
He's becoming a very good OC, offensive coordinator. And Jaden Daniels is the right kind of guy to fit that offense, and Dan Quinn's the right kind of coach to say, okay, I'm gonna ride with this dude. I'm riding with him. We're all gonna ride with him. And I wouldn't be surprised, even doubt myself in games this year, but I wouldn't be surprised if they go into Philly and you'll see the first rookie quarterback to represent the NFC in the Super Bowl. Some other coaching notables, Mike, before you go. I mentioned Aaron Glenn, DC, for the Lions, defensive coordinator, interviewing with the Saints where he plays, the Jets where he played. What do you see them teams doing? I think they both need an offensive-minded coach, those two teams in particular. And what about Dallas? This whole the rumor, Jerry should trade to get Mike Tomlin. Jerry should bring in Deion Sanders. Jerry might bring Kellen Moore back. All this different stuff. What about those three teams?
Well, let's start with the New York Football Jets. The New York Football Jets, I would say Aaron Glenn is probably his job to lose. They don't want to let him get out the building without a contract being signed. So it's basically Aaron Glenn or bust, what it sounds like from the Jets. That would be interesting. He'd be going back to a place where he actually played. I believe he played for Bill Belichick while he was there. So that'll be interesting to see how that turns out and what kind of spirit he puts in that organization. But also, you got to remember, they did have a defensive coordinator for the last head coach, and we saw how that worked out. But then again, it's offense, defense, or anything. It is the Jets. And we must not ever forget that. As far as the Saints, I mean, I know they went in on Aaron Glenn, but it would not surprise me if Mike McCarthy ends up there. Now, for those that don't remember, he was, I believe, an offensive coordinator there at one point in time. So would not surprise me if Mike McCarthy ends up there. He still has a good relationship with the family that owns the team.
The Bensons. And you know what, too, Mike, to your point, listen, Mike McCarthy, first of all, I could take it or leave it if he's not a splash guy, but he did win 12 games 3 straight years. How many teams were 12-5 through the last 3 years? And people don't give him enough credit in helping the development of Aaron Rodgers. So now you got Rattler. So Rattler's there. I said when they drafted him, this kid could be their franchise, and he showed in those last games. He almost upset. Well, they even beat some teams, and almost, if they had put him in maybe sooner, they might have had a shot at the playoffs. But he's a young guy. McCarthy might be good for him.
LA, I appreciate your optimism for Spencer Rattler, but I've watched him so much in the SEC, and I'm like, nah, he ain't it.
You don't think so?
It. No, he's not it.
Because he came from a bad. That program wasn't doing. Most are not going to do anything in the SEC. But I like his poise. He's small, but I like the way he kind of stands in the pocket and makes some plays.
I'll say this: in pressure situations, playing in SEC football, you could have mistaken him for maybe Florida's quarterback a couple years ago, and that ain't good. No. So I'll tell you that. But
so you want to go back to Derek Carr then?
Was that no? I go to anybody but those two.
Derek Carr.
But he might end up working with Spencer Rattler. But I'm just not a big Spencer Rattler guy. I saw him in Oklahoma, and when he got a little competition, he like, no, I can't do this anymore. He never got his job. He couldn't win his job back there. Then he went to South Carolina, and I think because he was brought in via NIL, and I think that's why he didn't lose his job there. So, I try to understand people with the optimism for Spencer Rattler, but I just haven't seen it. And he hadn't shown to me. It's kind of like how your feelings about Will Levis. I got those same feelings about Spencer Rattler. I'm like,
well, see, so I'm on the opposite end because you said, Will, I'm like, nah. So I think he just has something special. The way he can get out of the pocket and stuff. Maybe we'll see. I mean,
in Dallas, by the way,
you got a handful of games with him anyway to see on tape to see if he's going to be the real deal or not. But anything but DC, Derek Carr.
Now Dallas, by the way, the running backs coach there and former Chargers coach is actually Anthony Lynn is being rumored as well there.
Wow.
So that name, Dallas, that name has been rumored. It's been talked about as I think the offensive coordinator that's currently there. Then Kellen Moore. Then the Dion talk, which really is just the two friends talking, not necessarily an actual interview.
You don't think that'll happen? You don't think that'll happen?
I mean, I wouldn't put anything past Dion or Jerry Jones, but I don't think it's going to happen. And then in Jacksonville, of course, it's with Tampa Bay's Liam Cohen, who was offensive coordinator, which that would be a really good hire. It's with Robert Saleh. And then also, what is the other? The defensive coordinator for the Raiders last year, Patrick Graham. Those three are the coaches that they're bringing in this week. And I did a poll on that. And the two coaches that they picked to the top two, Liam Cohen, number one, Robert Saleh, number two. Patrick Graham got 0%. They literally did not vote for that man. I was like, come on, man.
Wow.
But I honestly, I think Liam Cohen probably be the guy, especially if they've got Trevor Lawrence with giving input for the job. I would say that it would be Liam Cohen if he has all the input that they say he has.
Yeah.
And if that's the case, if that happens, then that means Saleh goes back to the 49ers, in my opinion, as one of the highest paid defense coordinators in the NFL.
Yeah. I mean, well, they know him well there, so he just
very much
going back home. Final question: you had mentioned, who you saw in college, and obviously national championship game, Ohio State getting it done. Was Coach Day really? What did he have to do in order not to be fired? Did he need to make the playoffs? Did he need to win that one game in the playoffs? Or did he need to do what he did, which is win the whole thing?
I don't think he was getting fired anyway. But, he won a playoff game. He won a playoff game or two. Yeah, whatever. But I don't think he was going to get fired. I mean, it's pretty hard to fire somebody. You lose to Michigan, your rival. Yes, I know. But it's pretty hard to fire somebody double-digit wins pretty much every single year he's been there. And then he puts you in the college football playoffs. And then, of course, over the top wins you the national title. And then look at all the players that he has recruited there. Look at all the 5-star wide receivers.
And
he had 4 5-star wide receivers on this team. 4.
And look at he brought in Chip Kelly, and they spent a lot of money on this thing, man.
Yeah,
they spent a lot of money.
They did. So, they won the title. But I mean, the funny thing is, this seat probably gonna be just as hot next year, and nobody knows who his quarterback is gonna be. His actual quarterback, one of his backup quarterbacks, actually transferred to South Carolina this year.
Yeah.
So that more than likely will be South Carolina's starting quarterback next year.
Well, just to follow up on that, what about Notre Dame? Is this young man going to stay there? You think he's going to take an NFL job? He's got a hot seat. I thought the Bears going to wait until after the end of there where they can snatch him up. They went with Ben Johnson, but they were talking about, since he's a Chicago boy and this, that, and the other, that he may be there. But what about Notre Dame moving forward? And could you see the way the players are getting paid, and these schools are bringing in these top-notch coordinators and coaches that
Mm-hmm.
would that influence guys to stay longer in college and not enter the draft so soon like we've seen over the last 20 years or so?
Well, starting off with the Notre Dame question, I mean, I love what we saw from Marcus Freeman. I'm not a Notre Dame fan by any stretch of the imagination, but I did root for Marcus Freeman. Definitely
Same
saw
here.
him being successful. However, it is Notre Dame still, and Notre Dame got shown the door like many thought they would in some aspect in the tournament. But one thing he may lose his defensive coordinator. Al Gold, I can't remember what his name is. I think his name's
I know
Al.
what you're talking about.
But anyway, the defensive coordinator for for Notre Dame is actually being recruited by the Cincinnati Bengals right now to replace Lou Romo, which Lou Romo is actually the new defensive coordinator for the Indianapolis Colts now, by the way.
Which I couldn't
So
understand. Why would you hire a guy with their defense was 25th in the league? But anyway,
I can understand it. Reason why I can understand it is because look at what they gave him to work with. He had besides Hendrickson, I can't name you one other person that was within the top 50 players at their position on that team, and you expected them to work a miracle. So,
well, that's
I
a good
that
one.
part, and then also, another hire too is the Dallas Cowboys, Fossil, the the special teams guy. He got hired by the Titans, and Titans fired Cole Anderson. So that's a huge pickup for the Titans right there. Huge special teams pickup. But getting back to Notre Dame, of course, it's going to be interesting. I think if the defense coordinator goes to that job, Marcus Freeman puts more of his stamp on that defense. He's got a lot of former NFL players that are their sons are playing for him. Like
Yeah,
this year with Ryan Clark, he had Bryant Young's son, he had Brian
yeah.
Urlacher's son, and he had also, which Brian Urlacher's son. I mean, honestly, if you saw him, just I will say this: you'll do a double take if you see Brian Urlacher's son and him. That's all I'm gonna say. And just listening to how him talk, and you see his son, you'll do a double take. And then also you've got who else you got on that team? You got somebody else. Oh, Ron Powless's son actually plays linebacker for them too, which is crazy. But yeah, you got all these former either Notre Dame greats or things like that, and he's going to just continue to build on that. I know he's got Jerome Bettis' son actually there too next year, so that'll be just interesting. All those players that he's bringing in, he'll probably have more in hand of defense, and he'll still be successful next year. He's just got to figure out who his quarterback's going to be because last 2 years he's brought in a 1 year rental pretty much. And this year it was the guy from
Wake Forest.
no, he's from Duke. Guy this year was from
Duke, I
Duke.
mean, yeah, Duke, yeah.
Yeah, Riley
Riley
Leonard.
Leonard.
So
Mhm.
it'll
Duke,
be
yeah.
interesting just to see where he moves there, but it'll be interesting just to see how he puts his imprint more on this team next year. And they've got to be more explosive at the wide receiver position because good God, Ohio State couldn't they couldn't do anything at wide receiver position with the Ohio State guys. Now I know they have some explosive guys, but they don't have that one guy that can change the game down on their
And I
offense.
know they played man most of the year, but
Mm-hmm.
if you're gonna play
Nah,
man, you better have some studs that back there to be able to handle playing man. Joey
yep.
Porter Jr. type of guy, a physical guy. Because Smith was all, I mean, just worked
Did
him
you
as a freshman, and then and it's so amazing. I feel like I'm aging myself to see Bess and Clark, both
Mhm.
Super Bowl champions with the Steelers, both went to Notre Dame, and their kids are going to play for Notre Dame. And
Hold on. Ryan Clark went to LSU, not Notre Dame.
he spent time in he spent
Mm-mm.
yes he did. Okay,
Nah, he
I
went to
I'll look
LSU.
that up again. I'll look it up
Mm.
again. Um, but Jerome Bettis definitely went to Notre Dame.
Oh
That's
yeah, he definitely did. I still remember him scoring, and I don't know what he was doing with his hands, but it looked like he was like, remember how he used to do that all with his hands when he used to get in the end zone. I was like, I don't know what that was, but
yeah,
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 that
yeah.
was always cracking me up. I'm like, man, are you trying to be like a Power Ranger or Pikachu or something like that when you do that? That's my mind was wondering, man.
Final question about Tennessee State, their basketball team in
Mhm.
Ohio Valley. Assess them early, and what do you see for them, moving forward in this conference?
Well, it was a brand new team, pretty much. You only had one guy come back from last year's team. One. Everyone else was gone. So it was just interesting. This team was a collection of talented players. You got a guy, Carlos Williams from Tulsa. He was a starter for Tulsa at 6'7", 6'8". You got a guy that played for Rhode Island last year that could put up buckets in Weston. You have a Travis Harper. You have some guys that actually transferred from Division II to Division to transfer up to play for them. But it just, to me, it seems like the injuries and things like that have kind of taken them out of where they wanted to be. Right now, if they can continue to get healthy, they can get, put some games together. They can, get on a hot streak going into the tournament. They can make some noise. It's just the fact of everyone's not been healthy. And then plus, the continuity of everything. And, he's got a lot of guys that are like in the 6'4" to 6'8" range. In that range, which is a different complexion of his team that he's done in the past. But I know the reason why he did it, just because you want to have multiple guys at different positions. They can play multiple different positions and can give teams problems. So, hopefully, as they've got about another month before the tournament, month and change before the tournament. Hopefully they can get it together and be able to make a run in the tournament, because, they definitely are talented. And they definitely can defend well enough. And they definitely do have people that can score and run and jump and do all those different things. It's just a matter of putting it all together at the right time.
I like that 6'4" to 6'8", those tweeners. They could definitely play a 2, a 3, a 4. I like that. And those are the ones that usually that size are the real athletic guys that could jump through the roof anyway. So
now I'll say this. Don't forget, though, that Candace Dupree, former WNBA player, is the coach of the women's basketball team here at Tennessee State, too. And they actually are super young. They've got a ton of freshmen. They've got maybe like 3 or 4 like seniors or juniors with another year. And then everybody else is freshmen. And and a freshman is their leading scorer, actually, from Minnesota. Wow. They've got 2 freshmen from Minnesota that actually play for them.
Final question: is Travis Hunter the first pick? Is Shanora Sanders the first quarterback in both of them in the draft?
Ooh, that's a tough question. I will say this: if they keep the pick, the Titans keep the pick, it's going to be between Ward and Sanders. Right now, if I put bet money on it, I probably would say maybe more Cam Ward potentially. But it could go either way, and that's a slim margin on both. But if they trade the pick, I could see Travis Hunter going number 1 overall. But if they don't trade that pick, I don't see Travis Hunter going number 1 overall.
You think it'll be a quarterback and it'll be down between Cam? And I like Cam's confidence. Sometimes he just kind of turns the ball over a little bit too for me.
He's he definitely is feeling himself sometimes back there in the pocket. I get with it. I'm like, okay, cool. If I went from a 0-star quarterback playing an incarnate word to playing at Miami and being one of the best quarterbacks in the nation, I'd feel myself a little bit too.
But look, I've seen interviews where he talk about himself in third party. So it can't work.
Man, has he been watching Ricky Henderson interviews?
Yeah.
Rest in peace to Ricky Henderson.
Rest in peace, Ricky Henderson. Yeah, Ricky used to always do that. You're right. But I would take Hunter. I would take Sanders, in particular the fact that he had success with 0 offensive line for most of those years. That he was there. They just really struggled on offensive line. He was getting beat up, but yet he still put up numbers, got the team to a bowl game, and so I would definitely go with Sanders on that.
I would say this: I would like Shedeur to be here. I would like Cam to be here, but I do have some concerns with both of them coming here, and it has nothing to do with football. I'll just leave it at that.
Well, we know Dion won't be the coach. It won't be a package deal.
No.
Unlike what the rumor. Unlike the rumor about the Raiders, Tom Brady tried to bring both of them men there, but we shall see. Mike, before you go, of course, always good to have you on. Tell people about your platform and how they can follow you.
Well, of course, my platform is called Touring the AFC South. You can find it on all listening platforms, whether it be Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, you name it, we are there, as well as we are on YouTube at the Mike Patton Podcast Network. It's called Touring the AFC South. Of course, you can find me on any social media, whether it be Spotify, whether it's the artist formerly known as Twitter or Blue Sky. I'm there at Mike Patton 82. Now, the artist formerly known as Twitter, I say that because I'm not going to say X, because the only X I recognize is DMX and Malcolm X. That's it.
Right. That's right. I keep putting in Twitter. I'm using old X.
Yeah, I'm not calling it. I'm not calling it X. That's just crazy. But and then of course you can find me all across these internet streets. Of course, it's Instagram, Threads, everywhere. Just type in Mike Patton, not the singing Mike Patton, not Faith No More. No, I'm black. He's white. But but you can also find me there too. So
well, look, if you said for the formerly known as, don't start talking in third party or anything on that.
Nah, I call it. I say that to give love to Prince, man. I say that to one of the greatest artists of all time.
I know. Let's get you on next week and recap the AFC and NFC championship games. Thanks, Mike. Appreciate you, man.
Yes, sir.
All right. Mike Patton, again, always good to have him on. He looks like, I'm telling you, I got to pull up a picture of my nephew. He looks just like my nephew. And someone said Jonathan Harris, the jazz artist. But that's it for us. If you miss any part of our broadcast, you make sure you check out the replay at YouTube. You can follow us on Facebook at Pad Nation, Pad Nation 2 on X, I guess. LA Btchelor at YouTube, LA Btchelor at LinkedIn, and Instagram. Enjoy. We thank you for joining us. Enjoy the rest of your day. Talk with you soon.